The dust settled slowly, choking the air, a thick, acrid curtain obscuring everything. A groan, muffled and ragged, escaped from beneath the debris of what had moments ago been a small, humble hut. Then, a hand, trembling and covered in ash, clawed its way free, followed by an arm, a shoulder, and finally, the face of a young man, Ben Solo. His eyes, wide and unfocused, blinked against the sting of the particulate matter, trying to discern light from shadow. Disoriented, he pushed himself up, gasping, coughing, his ears ringing with a sound that was less a memory and more a visceral tremor in his very bones. The roar of uncontrolled power, the violent rupture of stone and timber. He stumbled back, away from the wreckage, still processing, still trying to anchor himself in reality. Then he saw it. Through the swirling haze, a monstrous orange glow pulsed against the pre-dawn sky. It wasn't the quiet, controlled light of a campfire or the gentle illumination of the temple at dawn. This was a hungry, furious inferno, devouring the ancient structures of the Jedi Temple, painting the landscape in shades of violent red and black. Flames, impossibly tall, licked at the heavens, and the air thrummed with the crackling chorus of destruction. Horror, cold and sharp, pierced through Ben's disorientation. His gaze fixated on the blaze, then shifted to the smoldering ruins of the hut where he had just been. The pieces clicked into place with a sickening thud. The sudden ignition of Luke Skywalker's lightsaber above him, the flash of instinctual fear, the uncontrolled surge of the Force that had erupted from him in a raw, defensive scream of power. He hadn't meant for this, none of this. He had simply reacted. A young man, startled awake, vulnerable, seeing a weapon ignite above him in the dark, and his immense, untamed power had lashed out, a purely reflexive, catastrophic shield. The hut had exploded outwards, a tempest of his own making, and the ensuing chaos, the uncontrollable torrent of energy, had evidently swept through the temple. His mouth opened, but no sound emerged beyond a choked gasp. Then, a raw, primal scream tore from his throat. Not a cry of triumph, not a declaration of war, but a wail of pure, unadulterated anguish and confusion. No, no! What happened next is crucial to understanding the true tragedy of Ben Solo. He didn't turn and flee. He didn't stand there surveying his work with cold satisfaction. Instead, with a cry of desperation, he stumbled forward, breaking into a frantic, limping run. He ran towards the burning temple. He wasn't running to revel in the destruction he'd wrought. He was running towards it, trying to save them. Trying to save his friends, his fellow students, the younglings who might still be trapped inside that inferno. He was driven by a desperate, futile hope that he could undo what had been done, that he could pull people from the flames, that he could somehow extinguish the monstrous fire that had been born from his own horrifying panic. This recontextualizes everything we thought we knew about the Jedi killer narrative. Ben Solo didn't set out to destroy the Jedi. He didn't awaken that night with a cold, calculated plan to murder his master and slaughter his peers. The destruction was a tragic, monumental accident, born from a moment of immense, uncontrolled power meeting profound fear and confusion. His grief and horror in that moment were not the actions of a budding monster, but the agony of a vulnerable, powerful young man who had just inadvertently unleashed cataclysm upon everything he knew. The monster, Kylo Ren, wasn't born from malice or ambition that night. Kylo Ren was forged in the searing pain, the unbearable guilt, and the overwhelming horror of Ben Solo's accidental apocalypse. Imagine the crushing weight of that realization. To be responsible for such devastation, to see the burning proof of your own uncontrolled power, to know that lives were lost because of you, even if unintentionally. For a young man already struggling with the whispers of Snoke, with the legacy of Darth Vader, and with the immense expectations placed upon him, this event was the ultimate breaking point. It was in the smoldering ruins, surrounded by the ghosts of his own making, that the path of Ben Solo twisted irrevocably. The arrival of the Knights of Ren, the immediate presence of Snoke's malevolent presence, offered a grotesque form of salvation, a way to channel that pain, that power, into something that felt like control, even if it was a path to utter darkness. The light he'd known, the life he'd had, was gone, literally burned away. All that was left was the horrifying realization of what he was capable of and the crushing burden of what he had done. This wasn't a choice for evil, but a desperate grab for belonging and purpose after unimaginable self-inflicted catastrophe. Kylo Ren became a shield, a new identity to house the unbearable guilt and loneliness of Ben Solo. It's why Kylo Ren always felt that pull to the light, why he was so volatile, why he was so tormented. Because the real Ben Solo, the one who ran towards the fire trying to save his friends, was still buried deep within, screaming in anguish, still yearning for a redemption he believed was impossible. This profound moment of accidental destruction and Ben's immediate horrified reaction to it doesn't excuse his later actions, but it provides a crucial, heartbreaking context. It makes him not just a villain, but a deeply tragic figure, broken by a single, catastrophic moment of unintended power. It reminds us that even the darkest paths can be paved with the most unbearable pain. Understanding this initial agony of Ben Solo changes our entire perception of his journey. It's a story not of inherent evil, but of immense power, uncontrolled circumstances, and the devastating consequences of a single horrific night. Thank you for joining me on this thoughtful exploration. I'm always so interested to hear your perspectives on these complex characters and pivotal moments. What are your thoughts on Ben Solo's first act after the hut collapsed? Did this recontextualize anything for you? Share your insights in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this discussion, please consider subscribing for more deep dives into the stories we love. Until next time, may the Force be with you.